Today, we're going to take behaviours that can make or break a relationship. The tool that you've got called the Four Horsemen and the antidotes.
Yes. No, this is based on research by a fabulous institute called the Gottman Institute, who actually did a 32-year study on what makes a relationship successful. And they called it the masters and the disasters. Let me know if you know about the this call, which is called the Four Horsemen.
Four Horsemen.
Yeah. And I don't know, Lise, if you can relate to this, and anyone else who hears this, and whether this applies to their relationship. So the Four Horsemen are criticism. This is where you make a complaint, but you verbally attack the person's personality or character.
Right.
Contempt, where you attack the person's sense of self with sort of abusive insults or anything like that. Defensiveness, which is when you kind of, if someone has a complaint about you, you back it off by becoming and taking up the victim role, if you like, really pushing back. And stonewalling, which we touched on in the last slide, where you just withdraw completely and you shut down, you distance yourself, and you might even leave the room. And there is a reason for stonewalling we touched on. Can anyone relate to getting involved in these in a relationship?
Yeah, I can relate to all of them actually. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And
so there's antidotes to each one.
There's antidotes to each one. I just want to point out that this is a really good guide, and still there will be some relationships where it is problematic. And often you might have an issue in a relationship that you never quite resolve, right? Because of the difference in your personality. But the way you deal with that issue is everything, right? Because, sometimes the way you deal with the issue becomes more of a problem than the issue was in itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think just having an idea of this, and I've certainly been in relationships. Any of you that followed me for a while, you'll know that I had an awful pattern of relationships in the past, and it's taken me a long time to undo a lot of this sort of conditioning I had and what was a healthy relationship. And to learn ways of operating, communicating from a place of value and worthiness, and to create and attract relationships that were healthy for me, right? So I totally get that this is difficult. And when we have a healthy relationship in our life, it can really fuel us, I think, and be, it's what we're built for, connection, isn't it, as humans?
Absolutely,
Excuse my eyes if they're going back and forth. We're on Facebook as well, so don't want to ignore Facebook. So let us know in the comments if you can relate to this. So criticism, where you focus on, you attack the person basically. And so the antidote with this would be a gentle startup, which we spoke about briefly last week. So you might start with using the word like, I'm feeling XXX, when this happens. So rather than sort of saying, like we said the other week, when you empty the dishwasher, you're a complete bleep, or you never think about me, you leave your socks lying around the house, you're totally disrespecting me, this kind of thing. You might sort of say, when I see the socks laid, left on the ground, I feel that you're not taking my feelings into account here. Our environment is really important to me. I wonder if we can sort of work on this, something like that. So you're keeping the I feel in there, right? So you state it, and then you can go back and keep stating it. But again, it's how you deal with it going forward, so it doesn't become more of an issue. Like if the fight is bigger than the issue of the socks being left on the ground.
Exactly.
You see what I mean? So you've got to sort of think about the way you use the gentle startup, if you like. And then when you think about contempt, contempt being attacking the person's sense of self, So I think contempt can sharpen statements that from a position of where you might feel morally superior, if you like. There might be some slight sarcasm or mockery, where someone might be just sort of saying, it's talking down to you. And that can be really quite destructive. And the antidote to this really is to build a culture of where appreciation, and we spoke about this slightly yesterday, or the other day,
Wednesday.
where you scan the environment for things you appreciate about a person always, even when, they are eating their spaghetti bolognese and you feel that chewing is too loud and it's really irritating.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's really offering, it's really building that culture of respect and appreciation for each other that I think can be really important. And like we said the other day, you know, thinking the magic ratio of 5 to 1, where you try and look for 5 times as many positive interactions, however small they are, to negative ones. This is just an idea of ways you can do it. And, you know, sometimes people can also, in the tone of voice they use, maybe express themselves, but still have a blaming tone. Do you know what I mean? A victim tone.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so, and that sort of takes us to defensiveness. You know, if someone is defensive and maybe, you know, they're sort of very overprotective of themselves. And if they feel that they're being criticized at all, they might go into sort of, you know, righteous indignation, if you like, or just not be accountable for the part they're playing at all in a situation. And they might sort of push it back. And I don't know if this is familiar, I've certainly done it, where someone might sort of say something to me and I'll sort of then immediately jump to the defense and say something like, yeah, but when you did this, you know, that caused me to react in the way I did. Do you know what I mean? So defensiveness is really where go on.
But what if it's the other way around, Lee? So you are taking responsibility, but the other person isn't, and the other person's being defensive?
Well, the thing is, we can't control what anyone else does. We can have influence in relationships in all areas of our life with the way we behave, and there will still be people we will meet and it will not work with them, and we can do all of this, and if person's not ready to be accountable for their part, so be it. You know, and the only, you know, often, you know, I've come into conflict in relationships in my past, and you have to make a decision to sort of just keep doing the thing that keeps your side of the street clean, if you like.
Exactly.
You know, and just keep pushing that behavior forward. And sometimes what can happen is when your behavior is sort of, you're being accountable, you can raise the bar, you know, and when you have an understanding for where the other person's coming from, so, well, why is this person behaving like this? What need are they trying to meet by being particularly defensive? Do they feel particularly vulnerable? Do they feel sort of criticized? Where's that coming from? So it's a sort of curiosity that can be quite helpful in understanding really what's making a person behave like that. Is this resonating with
absolutely? Yeah, no, totally. And then what about stonewalling?
So just stonewalling, well, this is really like when someone completely withdraws from a conversation, and this is often when they're emotionally flooded. And some people, when they're emotionally flooded, go into sort of an emotional overwhelm, and the reaction is to shut down. And, you know, they feel sort of like, you know, an emotional pressure building. And some people who I've had in my feel, you know, really physiological response in their body and feel emotionally flooded and release all these stress hormones, you know, fight or flight. And, you know, and not be able to tolerate anymore. Their heart rate will be going past 100 beats per minute, and they'll be in a very stressed state. Now, if someone is like that, then they are going to need to calm down, because they won't be able to absorb anything you're saying. If you can either feel it in yourself or see it, you're going to have to stop the conversation. This is where, when things do get very heated and you're not able to communicate and no one's absorbing and everyone's just shouting their opinion. I've heard, you know, couples they're not listening to what the other person's saying. No. This is where you need to stop and have an agreement. And when you get to this point, stop and go and cool off for 20 minutes. Literally let the physiological arousal calm down, and then come back into the room and again try again with a gentle start up.
Or even the next day, just leave it for a while until you've both calmed down. Yeah,
exactly. Leave it for a while, to, you know, at least 20 minutes, because it's just no point, because you won't have access to the logical, clear thinking part of your mind. The other thing you can do, if you find that it is a thing that is really heated, is to go out of your normal environment and go for a walk. Go for a walk together. The motion of walking can help settle any arousal. You know, not having sort of, you know, immediate direct contact where you're both, you know, both sort of at each other, and go and just walk, and, you know, often holding something, like having an agreement, I'm going to hold something in my hand and I get a chance to speak for 10 minutes or something, and the other person just has to listen. and then the other person gets a chance to speak. So that can be just a few ideas. I mean, obviously this is a huge subject, right?
Yes,
and there are lots of different things that people
so helpful. Can do.
But these are really sort of short little bits of information that, you know, that I hope maybe give you some ideas, resonate, that you can use in the future, or do your own research around. I don't know if that's helpful to anyone. Do let me know in the comments.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.